All right, Jason Rona back here in Waite Park, Minnesota. We're here with Steve Knutson, the owner here at the Thunder Road RC Raceway in Hobbytown. And Steve, we talked a little bit. We've been doing some video here. I've been trying to make a video about kind of doing things right in the business and in the hobby. We were using a lot of different things in my video, the way you guys are doing things, that I view it as doing it the right way. And talk to us a little bit about being in this in the hobby business, and kind of briefly, you had a little setback and then got back into it full steam with the track and everything. But explain to us getting into this and that what you kind of encountered along the way there.
Sure. Well, we owned the hobby shop, the hobby business, without a track for about 8 years. And the writing was kind of on the wall that retail has changed quite a bit, as we all know, with online. So it seemed to make sense to how do we add more value to the hobby business? And the way to do that is to provide a place or a destination for people to come and actually use their hobbies. So besides the racetrack, we have the rock crawler track. We have a number of different clubs that come in here. So the Wargamer guys come in, the modeling club. So we try to make it a destination to do the hobby, not just sell the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see that when I walked in, you got some flyers up front saying that, this event's coming, that event's coming, and come here and join us and do this. And you can see right away that is obviously a trick to doing this correctly, is being, like you said, a destination to go and enjoy it, right?
Exactly. You look at an Amazon, and what they can provide is low price, right? And that's what they do. And that's great. That's their value. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to support the local, Cub Scout troop, or they're not going to support maybe, the local play, or they're not going to do that kind of stuff. Well, that costs money. And so we wanted to see how can we keep it local and keep it profitable so that we can keep the lights on. Right? Well, we have to add value, like I said. So that's when we decided to make it a destination.
Good. So you had the building where the hobby shop has been in. Has it always been in this location, and then you built the track behind?
Right. So actually, it was Baker's Hobby Town. They built it in 1973, which was interesting, and then moved over by the mall here. St. Cloud, Waite Park, there's a couple towns here close together, about 120,000 people. So we're not Minneapolis, we're not Chicago, right? And but it was the only hobby shop. It was the only hobby shop around. And we moved over here about a little over 3 years ago, and this was actually a golf shop. And so where the track is now was an indoor golfing range. So they had a dome. So the dome was huge. It was 210 feet by 170 feet and 60 feet tall.
Okay.
So we came over here. There was no dome at the time. It had been down for quite a long time. And so we bought the property, remodeled it, and thought, well, let's go put a new dome up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what a great way to have an indoor track. I mean, we literally could put anything we want in there. And including drones was another big one for us. The setback you mentioned was 2 months after we got the dome erected. We had, and the day after the parade, we had a huge storm come through and tore down the dome. And it just shredded the fabric. They said it should never happen, but it did. So I guess I'm not very good with odds. I probably stay away from Vegas. So so it went down. We decided, hey, we actually can't have that. We have people in our building and stuff all the time. We can't have that in a storm. So that's when we erected a brand new building that you see there. And that's 15,000 square foot purpose-built building for that. And then another 6,500 square feet for the hobby shop. And that's how we decided to go forward. So we lost about a year and a half in there, but
but we're back.
We're back.
So, to me, what stands out here when I came in is, obviously it's nice to have everything nice and clean and set up well and organized, and it's lit very well in here. A lot of these places we go to, they're, and not everybody has the same budget, but nicely lit, organized, clean, and I think those are things that people are attracted to when they walk in and they're trying to get into something like this, right?
I'd love to take credit for that, but that would be wrong.
Okay.
That's my wife, Laura. So we've been co-owners in this, and she's the organized one, and which makes it work, right? You you need somebody with different skill sets than yourself. I'm a little more of the visionary and financial guy. Sometimes the details I struggle a little bit. So she does all that. She manages the hobby shop too, and because they are separate. And so I really. Thank her because she's not standing here right now, but maybe she'll see it and then I'll get a little credit for thanking her.
That's right. So then as you walk through, this is kind of how we went with the stuff I was working on. We walk through, then we get to the area that's really more dedicated to the race crowd. Up front, I think it's important to be dedicated to your entry-level guys, the hobby side of things. Then we get a little more hardcore as we get into the race side, and then you kind of have a little pro shop here where that's where you have the race kits and the parts and so talk about kind of that section, and then we'll kind of move back into the track.
Sure. Well, that was interesting because we get this building and it's expensive to remodel. And you talk about budgets. I mean, that it was hard, right? So we get there. That was actually the golfer's lounge for the driving range. And so it was a fireplace, couches. I mean, it was all set up, and we didn't know what to do with it. We just didn't know, and we're like, hey, pro shop, right? It's between the hobby shop and the track. So my sons, they went through, remodeled it, and built out the pro shop, which, like you mentioned, is really focused on the racing community. All this stuff out in the shop is really more your general kind of hobby truck, stuff like that.
So then we move, past the pro shop. That's where you can kind of get that stuff to get you on the track, speed controls, high-end radios, the high-end race cars. And then we get into the track itself. Again, well-lit, big. You got a lot of ceiling height in there, which you talked about, if you were ever going to do drone stuff or any type of thing. But getting back to the building, and then you built a real purpose-built carpet off-road track, which it has a subfloor, and maybe you can detail like a little bit about your driver stand and then the subfloor and then the carpet track.
Yeah, it was interesting because I called a lot of other tracks. Super helpful. 702 was one that I leaned on, and in Omaha, the Hobbyplex, great people. Some of them also have hobby towns, so they're part of the franchise. And every single one of them super helpful. Every time I called another track, went through, because I'd never, other than the one in the dome that blew up, we'd never really built one this way. So we did get a little bit of an advantage because I got a do-over, right? So I got to do a lot of stuff better the second time that we didn't do the first time, like putting in the subfloor. So we ended up with putting in tongue and groove plywood, 8,000 square feet. So it's 80 by 100, and raised that up, and then that gave us a great opportunity for all of our loops and all of the stuff to run in there. Plus screwing down all the stuff, it was a lot better. The driver stand I had purpose built. As you saw, it's very heavy and very sturdy. We ended up raising that for this. A couple feet to eliminate some blind spots. Put in a ramp, but the pit spots, like I said, with the dedicated track, although we had a little bit of problem with the power, we have a dedicated 20 amp circuit for every row. That we felt that was important. As you know, they're sucking up a lot of juice. And then the lighting is all LED lighting, which I was really excited about until we flew our first FPV drone in there. That doesn't work so good. And so, but anyway, we love the lighting, we love the building. It's actually very compared to the dome, it's easy to heat and cool too. So, which was nice here in Minnesota, especially on the heating side.
And then, right before you kind of get to the track, we talked about it a little bit earlier, you have the crawling and the scale course, which is really kind of neat. I don't know that I've ever really been to one where you have sticks to get the cars out, because it's like you've set it up and you don't want people walking in there because there's dirt, there's rocks, and for people operating the equipment, I walked in there first and you got the signs that say, hey, don't get in the crawling course, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, how do you get your car when it flips over? Then I see the guy with the stick and I'm like, now I get it. So, which is nice because it keeps it clean again, and you don't have everyone just standing all over the place, and there's a little bit of, brings a little organization to the madness in that little section, right?
We've actually had crawler comps there, and those are really interesting to watch. I've never done any kind of crawler competition, and they're so into the scale, and it's actually a different group. Some of them cross over a little bit, but the crawler group is the crawler group, and when they come up, like I said, it's a lot of fun to watch because they just are standing there, and you don't want to mess with the track.
No.
Like you said, because if you're walking on it and they're in the middle of something, now it's all screwed up. One thing we didn't turn on, and I should show you later, is we actually have a waterfall and a little stream that comes through there.
Okay.
And that comes off the high end of the wall, but it's this many people. I didn't know if we wanted to do that.
Yeah, but it's nice, and it's got a great feeling when you're in back there. Obviously, when you're in use on a race like this, there's people and you have that atmosphere. But then there's also guys on the crawler course using that at the same time, and it's got a real nice feel to it back there when we're here.
Especially like on a Friday night. We'll have Friday night races. They're a little more casual.
Yeah.
And then we'll also have usually the Warhammer guys, so the Warhammer group, and the crawlers will be going. So, I mean, we're already staffed. The hobby shop's already open. We already have people back there. So let's use all the different pieces. It's kind of our thought. And then there's a lot of activity. Friday nights and Sundays are hopping back there.
That's good. And, and that's kind of what I was, looking at, we were doing this videos. I'm like, there's a lot of things here that, in my opinion, are really kind of done right. And if you're going to have success in this business, we've talked to people, as we make different stops of, what works for, somebody and what makes these work, because there's a lot of, like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of competition in today's day and age with being online and that type of thing, and how to do this right and make it work. But like you said, you have to turn things that could be not necessarily a negative, but what can you do and provide that something online or somebody can't? And you already talked about that, which is we have to have a destination. We have to have this because that's what separates you, right?
Absolutely. And, it's still a struggle because somebody might buy something off Amazon or something and it breaks.
Yeah.
And then they don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
We're the only hobby shop, so they'll come in. We know they probably didn't buy it here, but hey, you know what? We're going to spend 5 minutes on it. We'll look at it. We'll help them. And we're not, that's fine. That's what they chose to do, and that's their prerogative. But you know what? If they break it and we have the knowledge to help them fix it, maybe they'll buy the part from us.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the thing, is what we want people to do is to get hooked on this. And the only way to get hooked on it is to have that personal experience with somebody that says, hey, they care, I can come back and I can keep enjoying this. And you kind of change the way that they might have got into it a different way, but the way they stay into it might be through you guys and staying here and enjoying it on the weekends, right?
Yeah, I'd say because, I think it's actually all of our employees were customers.
Okay, that's good.
So they love being here. It's kind of like, and I'm dating myself, I know, but it's kind of like Cheers, right? Everybody knows your name. So people come in, they love coming here, and they hang out, and we love having people here during the day, right? So we try to make it that fun, kind of casual, fun environment where you're always welcome.
Yeah. So give a shout out here to your location and, how somebody might find you and come in here and just visit and maybe get into this.
Sure. Well, because we are not in Minneapolis,
which
everybody's like, well, why would you build this big thing and not be in Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't live in Minneapolis.
Yeah, of course.
That's exactly what I'm not going to build it there.
Yeah.
So we're an hour northwest of Minneapolis. Traffic's light. You can make it from the airport in a little over an hour. Traffic's bad, hour and a half, right? I mean, it's a big city, right? But that's where we sit, northwest of Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, and the name of the town is actually Waite Park, although most people call it St. Cloud.
Correct.
It's like they call St. Paul, Minneapolis, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what they do. But it's Waite Park. And it's a fun little community. We're the draw for about 60 to 100 mile radius for other smaller towns that are around us. So we, on a regular Saturday race, we'll get people from North Dakota, sometimes South Dakota, but we usually get people from Iowa and Wisconsin as well. So we're kind of pulling from that radius, and we have a good contingent here for this race, as you saw.
All right, well, good. Well, thanks, Steve, so much. You guys are doing it right here. We really appreciate you having us here. This has been a great weekend. We're learning a lot. You guys are learning a lot, and the racers are having a blast. And we look forward to checking out these A-mains coming up here towards the end. And thanks again, and good luck.
Great. Thank you.